My XK8 has got a beautiful, low mileage example of an early 4 litre V8. It's had a ZF 6-speed manual conversion, and there's a funny box of tricks hanging off the back of the ECU. The reason for this is that the ECU and wiring loom have not been changed, they're bog standard. All of this has got to go in the bin. That might sound extreme. It probably sounds even more extreme when you consider that its intended replacement is a 4.2 litre V8 from a scrapyard with 186,000 miles. But let me crack on and I'll explain as I go. Ultimately, in a roundabout way, fitting this janky ass old engine now has a lot to do with the final aims for the car. Hear me out. Eventually, this car needs to be fast. I'm not interested in having another slow car or even a moderately brisk one. This needs to be fast. And so, we're going to use the latest and greatest supercharged V8 fitted to an X100 chassis car, that being the 4.2 from a late XKR. That was always the aim, that was always the plan. That's why I bought the car. But I need to be realistic. The thing has never turned a wheel in anger, and it's only going to move as fast as my limited budget and my even more limited mechanical ability will allow it to, which is really slow. With that in mind, the plan was always to get the car turned around quickly with a modest amount of power, just to make sure that everything worked, because I don't have a bloody clue. So 3 years ago, I decided to get the car turned around quickly, standard engined, and now here I am stripping out the engine bay of everything I can get my hands on. It doesn't make any sense, does it? No, it doesn't. Okay, so look, what it is that funny box of tricks, talking to a standard ECU to try and get it to not talk to the automatic gearbox anymore, that was jank. Even by my standards, it was jank, and I'd have been happy if it worked, but it didn't. Right, so what it needed was a standalone ECU. We need to get a standalone ECU. Not a problem, absolutely fine. Oh yeah, by the way, did you know that once you build a loom for an ECU to run a 4 litre, it then has to be thrown in the bin when you get a 4.2? I didn't know that. No, I was under some significant delusion and ignorance when I bought this car, and I had no idea that there is very little compatibility between the early and the late V8s fitted to XK8s. So that's why it's now taken 3 years to get the ideas together to even know what to do to get this bloody thing going. And after 3 years of scratching my head, when I wasn't banging it against the wall, the conclusion I've come to is that everything that goes on the car now needs to be compatible with the 4.2 litre supercharged V8 that it'll eventually get. So we build the car now, ready for the future. We put it out there with the scrapyard engine to make sure it works, and then we know it's ready to take the final power plant that will deliver this thing to glory. And that entire baffling decision-making process now leads us to here, where I'm trying to make this entirely healthy and perfectly usable 4 litre V8 disappear. Blame Jaguar. Anyway, it turns out it's not that easy to make an engine disappear, as I've been discovering. The XK8 has got a pretty busy engine bay, and it's kept me pretty busy, but after pulling out enough wires, pipes and hoses to build an aircraft carrier, I was finally getting there. There was the small matter of race season, which was a minor distraction when it came around. But soon it was back to all hands on deck. Get it? Aircraft carrier reference. All hands on deck? No? Okay. So soon it was back to the XK8, and we were rapidly homing in on the engine coming out. My first ever engine swap was looking fully underway. At this point, there was nothing left holding the engine in except the mounts. And if you've ever heard the old mechanics saying that every job is one stuck bolt away from becoming a 3-day ordeal, then watch on. We took on the offside first, and that came out with some serious complaint. Can I just take this out and see what it does? The near side went considerably worse. No, it's gone.
Gone?
Yeah.
What, you stripped it?
Yes, indeed, I had stripped it, and on closer inspection it became apparent that we were in for a seriously bad time. This was genuinely gutting. We'd had such great momentum and were certain that we were getting the engine out there and then, and we'd been stopped in our tracks by one singular bolt. And that one singular bolt happened to be the near side engine mount lower bolt, which is a problem because the near side engine mount on an XK is notorious for the bottom bolt needing to be released to raise the engine to even get the top bolt off. So we were seized and stuck on top and on bottom, and now my life looked like this. The cause of this great misery was a little helping of galvanic corrosion, a steel bolt into an aluminium subframe. It didn't help that someone had Loctited the bolt within an inch of its life and had also used a non-OEM item that they had lying around which just happened to be Torx headed. In my opinion, Torx heads are the work of Satan and have absolutely no place on anything that is tightened to more than 5 Newton meters. I lost hours of my life hammering and teasing extractor sets onto this bolt, but even when I seemed to have an excellent grip, the result was always the same.
Mate,
What?
spun off. I'm gonna fucking find the cunt that put that fucking Torx in there. Fucking retards. Fucking steel bolt into an alley subframe. You put a Torx head on it. Fucking idiot. And fucking Loctite it as well. You cunt. Fucking idiot.
Yep, as a have-a-go hero playing at being a mechanic, I really was reaching breaking point, and so were my have-a-go hero tools as well. Not only was this bolt stopping me from getting that blasted engine out, it was also writing off my equipment. Despite stripping out like butter, this thing now apparently was hard as nails and tougher than all the extractor bits that I was putting on it. One weapon left in the arsenal was heat, a lot of heat, but I may not necessarily have had the correct tool for that.
Oh my god.
What?
Look at the gun.
Ah,
Oh yeah, Mike.
the gun's on fire instead.
Yeah, the heat gun's on fire. That's a good heat
You
gun.
might want to turn that off at the wall.
Oh dude.
Yeah, turn that off at the wall, Tom.
Wow.
Yeah. There.
Fuck!
Look how you managed it.
Do you know why you've done the green?
It's a heat gun!
No, for the corner.
Yeah.
No, it's still that isn't. Yeah, that's not as bad.
Well, fuck you know.
Clearly, have-a-go hero was just not going to cut it, but luckily I'm fortunate enough to have an Adam, who is a real mechanic with real tools. Of course, Adam did his usual trick of making light work of a problem that had stumped me for literal days. But what I lack in mechanicking prowess, I'm more to make up for in being a Facebook marketplace fiend. And on that note, it is time to introduce you to Shaq. Shaq is my obnoxiously oversized big black engine crane. Sniped for a bargain £100 off of a dark mysterious bloke in a dark mysterious shed in one of the darkest most mysterious corners of Bristol, Shaq is going to provide the heavy lifting duties for this job. The hydraulic system is currently broken, but that's fine because I can use the telescopic worm drive. And I do have every intention of fixing the hydraulics, but quite frankly, as long as this method works, I probably won't. Obviously, what every first-time engine swapper needs is some completely unknown equipment cobbled together in a shed by a bloke with no teeth, a welder, and a seriously industrial attitude to using it. Some of the welds, though, were more industrial than others. Adam! Some more magic from the man himself had us back in business. Well, when I say business. With Shaq soon restored to working order, we were back in the game. We started setting up for our first proper run at lifting the engine. Fairly soon it became clear that it still wasn't going to be simple. After all, we were trying to lift the engine, not the car, but the two were seemingly inseparable, and anything we did to one, the other would follow.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
All we were looking for was the slightest gap in the bell housing as a starting point to tease the engine away from its locating dowels in the gearbox, but it stubbornly remained completely snug. In order to help us get some tools into the gap, I started removing some more of the detritus from the top of the engine.
Toys. Fucking Loctite, isn't it? Like everything on this fucking car. I'm gonna find you, by the way. Whoever did this, I'm gonna find you. You and your tub of fucking Loctite. We're gonna have words.
The issue we were having was that the remaining contact points of the engine, the dowels in the gearbox and the bottom of the engine mounts, even though they were unbolted, the seals would not come unstuck. And at this point, we weren't exactly overflowing with creative solutions. Yeah, at this point, it's definitely time to call in the cavalry. Adam! Adam had deduced that the best chance we had of creating that crucial bell housing gap was to give the gearbox some wiggle room as well. So we undid the gearbox mounts, supported the whole lot on a jack, and what do you know? Pretty much immediately we got exactly what we were after. He's a bit bloody good, this guy.
Oh mate, yes. Just move the dowels this side.
Yeah, I can see daylight. I can see daylight. Fucking business.
But this wasn't a magic bullet. That jack holding the gearbox up was going to be required to shift the car about, and to get it down off the stands, because the car would need to be down for the engine to come up. So we needed to find a way to support the weight of the gearbox, but also to allow it enough movement to ease the engine off the front. Taking the gearbox out entirely wasn't an option for us. It was literally too tall to get out from under the car. Trying to do so would have added an entire extra layer of complexity that was just not the way to go. We ended up loosely reinstalling the old mount to take the weight of the gearbox so that we could retrieve the jack, and then creating a plinth out of some blocks of wood to support the weight of it once the car was back on the deck. With the gearbox secure but no longer rigidly mounted in the car, we could get back to the engine, and now that we had a bell housing gap, pry bars were the order of the day. This slow and methodical teasing process was preferable to the brute force method in order to protect the gearbox input shaft, which could quite easily be bent if we just went full ham on Big Shaq. Speaking of Big Shaq, it was at this point that we had our second minor disagreement.
Oh, you bastard. Ouch. Ouch.
If only that bang on the head had been a little bit harder, then I might have seen the light and decided to take up golf instead of this bollocks. Anyway, as much as that may have hurt, Big Shaq's transgressions couldn't distract from the true villain of the piece, the near side engine mount, which through all of this toil and torture was still clinging resolutely to both the chassis and the engine.
Hey! Yes, Adam!
Considering the absolute ordeal that I'd been through getting the lower bolt out of that mount, the fact that it was the very last remaining obstacle keeping the engine seized in the car, well, I can't decide if that's an ironic twist of fate, or if it just makes it an extra double super bastard. Either way, we were on the home straight now. The only thing left to overcome was negotiating the engine around the power steering rack and the anti-roll bar, which still remained in situ.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, free.
There's no
crazy fucking new engineer it is.
I'm going to run out. I've not got too far to go. Okay. You boys good?
Yeah.
Beers. Engine out, boys.
3 Musketeers. Well, hang on. Well done, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. Adam got the engine out.
Looking at the state of what was left behind on the subframe gives you an idea of what we were up against. Hopefully, that's the hardest part done, and now the car is starting to look a lot more like a blank canvas to turn into an absolute ripping racer.